It was work hard and play hard recently when over 40 young adults from all over Europe and beyond gathered in Scotland's capital Edinburgh for a week-long conference. Although there was time for fun and relaxation, the week had its serious side too.
Basically, it's a dislocation of the two arteries, and I have been operated on when I was about 1 and when I was about 5.
I've got something called phallocstratiology, but it has some complications and it can't be operated on or mended in the state that it is.
It's aorta stenosis. It means it's a cleft in the heart. It's aorta, it's broken, and I have it since I was birthed.
I was born without a tricuspid valve, and I had a bypass surgery at 13 months. And then later on, 10 years ago, in fact 10 years Wednesday, I had a Fontaine operation, which is basically where the right atrium is joined to the pulmonary artery.
And my condition, well, I think it's good. I'm living happily.
So eventually, like Karina, it'll be a heart-lung transplant. But I'm quite well. I'm well at the moment, so that's not an option at the moment. So I'm just like in limbo. They just keep an eye on you and say, yes, you're doing very well. Go away for 6 months and then come back and, yes, you're doing very well. And that's about it.
So far, I guess I am the only one here who's not been operated. I'm the only one with a defined body who is here, but I guess I got a condition of a man of 60, 70 years old. You know, very shortness of breath. Lifting things up is quite heavy, but long distance walking in just flat areas, I can do that. I can do a little cycling when the weather is nice, but it all depends on the day.
I was born with something called a phallocstratiology, which is means that there's a tight valve in the right side of the heart and there's a hole between the chambers.
There isn't anything that I can be certain of, like what's going to happen to me when I'm 40, because I'm the youngest with this kind of heart disease or heart defect in Finland to be operated, so they don't know really what's going to happen. But I think everything is going to be all right because it has been already, so why would it change?
I had a sort of a shunt type operation when I was about 5, and then I had an attempted correction when I was 15 and a further attempted correction when I was about 19. And I've recently had a balloon technique whereby a catheter is inserted through the groin into the heart, and a balloon is inflated to try and dilate the tight, narrow valve.
A shunt is where they take a vein from the arm and transfer it to a main artery of the heart.
I wouldn't even have come to a conference like this 2 years ago had it not been for the fact that I'd become unwell and I needed the support of a group of drunken hooligans. No, a group of a group of like-minded friends who would be there to support me through some tough times.
Trefoil House here on the outskirts of Edinburgh was the setting for the second European conference for young adults born with heart disorders. It attracted representatives from 10 different European countries and even one representative from Australia.
I am not a disabled person. I am a person with a health problem. I'm a person who has a few difficulties in life. I feel that I am like a person who has broken their leg. They just have a few difficulties.
The general public tend to see disability in very black and white terms. They either see somebody in a wheelchair or somebody not in a wheelchair. They're either, if they're in a wheelchair, they're disabled. If they're not disabled.
At a young age, I was in a wheelchair, and at about 13, I refused to go in that wheelchair. Fortunately, I am lucky to say I can get out of that wheelchair and have a little walk about. Other people can't.
When you're in a wheelchair, if you can walk straight, they will talk to you, but the minute you're sitting down in a wheelchair, it all changes. I don't use much of a wheelchair, but when you start to use a wheelchair, people suddenly treat you different.
Somebody with heart disease is somebody who is sort of intermittently disabled because their condition can be quite good, their state of health can be quite good at some times and then not so good at others. So we don't really fit all the time into one of the two categories.
I think it's really quite an advantage being aware of your own mortality, because what it does is it makes you go out and live every day and get absolutely the best from your life. You're not thinking about the future, you're thinking about now, and every moment's brilliant, and that's the way it's got to be.
Most of the so-called healthy people are the people who forget to live their lives. They are just going day by day and not living like we are.
I've reevaluated things and I've thought, gosh, how stupid I was to sort of put work at such a high premium when there were so many other important things, and life is a once and for all precious gift, and I was just giving it away to work, and it was insane. And there are more important things, and it's up to us to sort of see that and say, well, I'm going to seize life and suck it dry, and that's my intention.
I had a transplant about 2.5 years ago, and that was because I had a condition known as Eisenmanger's syndrome.
I'm on the heart and lung transplant list. I have been for the last 6.5 years.
My health is noticeably and manifoldly improved since I had the transplant. I can give you an example of how I was immediately before the operation, which is that it would take me roughly, I suppose, about half an hour to walk 50 yards, and I'd have to stop. I'd get out of breath very soon, really only after a few paces, and I was more or less housebound by the time that I needed the transplant. And now there's no real comparison, because 50 yards is nothing. It's like 50 yards for you.
Necessary? Fairly necessary. I believe, without the transplant I will die. And that's the bottom line. So, I need one help.
There are still limitations. I'm not as healthy as somebody who's 100% in good health. But for me, it's at least 100% improvement on what I had before. Because at the moment I've recently taken up rollerblading, which is something which it's good fun, and it's very good exercise. And I would never have dreamed before the transplant that I would be even able to do that.
With unseen disability, you can't prove it to people unless you want to show them a scar. But some people don't have the scar because they can't be operated on. And for them, it's even harder being blue and fine one day and then turning blue the next. And people just don't want to know you. When people are afraid that you're going to collapse.
Although some funding was provided by the Helios 2 programme of the European Commission and the British Heart Foundation, the conference was organised by the Association for Children with Heart Disorders. Jim Kelman is chairman of the Edinburgh branch.
The aim of the association to raise funds to provide support, to provide equipment for hospitals, for home, to provide information for families, generally to support where it's needed.
Fewer than 1% of the population are born with structural heart fault. So if you have a structural heart fault, by definition, you're part of a minority population. And I think meeting with other members of the same minority population can only be beneficial, because it's only with people who face the same or similar difficulties that you can use other people's experience to find solutions.
The foundation is set up to, in simple terms, to beat heart disease in all its forms, to reduce mortality and also to reduce the suffering of those that have heart problems. And therefore the fundamental top priority of the British Heart Foundation is to fund heart research, and it is done by raising money from the public. We receive no money from government whatsoever.
Those people who are here at this conference would be very unlikely to survive until the development in cardiac medicine of the last 20 years. The advances have been tremendous, and that's why they're here, people with transplants and pacemakers and complicated disorders.
That's basically what's happening here all week. People are just interchanging ideas, and in that way you can help each other. And I think that's a good thing to do, especially if it's done in an international way. You raise it above a national level.
We're all here to help each other, and I think this is basically what the result of this week will be. They will draw strength from each other. They have made a lot of friendships from the conference in Holland 2 years ago, and it's ongoing today.
Many subjects of concern to the delegates were presented through practical workshops and discussion groups. These included issues like income protection and breaking down social and psychological barriers. Jean led the contribution from the Netherlands.
The first issue was about, there was Nathan's story about feeling insecure about yourself in relationships. And that, of course, is quite a psychological barrier, one of the most important, I guess. The second sketch was about employment and the difficulties in getting a job, because people who hire you do not know what a congenital heart disease is, so they are prejudiced about them.
Jonathan Smith, come in, take a seat.
Oh, stick around. Welcome.
Well, I'm the department manager, and this is the personnel manager. We're looking for an interpreter, English, Dutch, as you know. So let's see. I see. You are born in the Netherlands, and you're living in England now?
Yes, I moved to England.
Well, what do you think?
That's the right woman. She's got the right spirit for the job.
Well, might be, but what about her health? I mean, I think it could be a problem. It could be a problem. And she probably will be sick a lot, and that's something we cannot afford at the moment, you know that.
Are you sure that this heart thing is a reason for being sick more than other people?
Well, are you questioning my authority on this, or...?
No. You could be right. I guess we better take that other woman. Her qualifications weren't as good, but she looked healthy to me.
Yes, she did. Well,
Some issues from